Hello, everyone, and thank you for jumping on with us today. My name is Elliot. I'm with Arbiter's implementation team. I also have Alexis here with me. She'll be going through the presentation portion of this and showing you the different features within ArbiterGame, showing you how you can quickly do some things, some time savers, some quick tricks, things like that. We will be having more of these webinars in the future, so look for those pop-ups when you log into your account. Feel free to register for as many as you'd like. There's no limit. We also record each of these, so if you ever want to go back and revisit these, we will have an article that shows all the links to those videos. I will post both those in the chat for upcoming and past webinars. Feel free to check those out. With that, I will turn it over to Alexis.
Awesome, thank you. Hello everyone, so like Elliot said, we're going to go over the top 5 features of ArbiterGame. So starting off, the first feature we're going to go over is team settings. So we're going to jump to the Teams tab here. And whether you're creating a new team or modifying an existing team, when you go in there, you'll see all these different options that you can set up for your team. So team settings allows you to set up different game defaults to save you time when you're entering your game schedules. So the first thing we see here is location. So you can set up a default site and subsite, otherwise known as location for your game for that particular team. So we're basically establishing where they typically play their home games. And then below that, you have this officiating section. So this establishes who by default typically is responsible for scheduling the officials for that team. Now from this drop-down menu, you have the option if your school will be assigning the officials. If you do select that option, you then have the option to select the number of default officials you'll need for that team. Or if you have an Arbiter 1 assigner who is responsible for scheduling your officials, you can go ahead and select that option from the drop-down and click this green button, Add Another Group. Now, when you click Add Another Group, you'll see this Assigner Group box. So this is where you'll enter in the 6-digit group ID number for your assigner. And if you're not sure exactly what that number would be, you'll want to reach out to your assigner to obtain that. And once you plug that in and go on the far right side here at the bottom, click Save. This is how the system communicates with your assigner so that when you add games for that particular team, the game will automatically show up on the assigner's end to schedule your officials. Now, if you do have multiple assigners, you do have the ability to select one as a default. So we can see here for my team right here, we have this one set as the default, and then we have these other two. So when you're adding a game, you have the ability to select which assigner will be scheduling the officials for that team, for that particular game, if you do have multiple assigners. Now on the right side here under times, you can set up, if there's a default setup time for the game, dismissal time for home and away games, departure time for away games, what time the game for that team typically starts, the game duration, and then cleanup time. Now next, we're going to jump to roster. So under roster for your team settings, you have the ability to add your students. Of course, you'll need to add your students first under the Students tab here at the top. But once you've added your students into the system, you can go here to the team and build out the roster for your team. So you can just go here on the far right side, click Add Players, and set up your roster. The next thing we're going to go over here under Team Settings is Smart Scheduler. So Smart Scheduler essentially allows you to build out additional schedules for other teams. For this example here, for Varsity Boys Baseball, we're telling the system that every time I add a game for Boys Varsity Baseball, the system will additionally add a game for our Boys JV Baseball the same day, 2 hours after the start time of the Boys Varsity. And then it's going to swap the home and away for the site. And then additionally, it's going to do the same thing for this boys freshman baseball as well. So to set this up, you'll just click Add New. It'll give you all of these options as you can see. So select your team, Select the hour if it's going to be a certain amount of hours before or after. How many days before or after, or if it's same day. And then for the site, if it's at the same location or if we need to swap the home and away. And then just click save and the system will get that set up for you. Next, or lastly, under team settings is workers here. So if you have any default workers that typically work for that team for those games, such as security, clock operators, ticket takers, anybody like that, you can set them up here. So when you add a game for that team, it's going to automatically assign those event workers to the game. So it'll save you a bunch of time. So just click Add New, select the position, and then from this Workers dropdown, select your worker. Now, of course, this Workers list is pulling from the Workers tab within your ArbiterGame account, so you'll want to make sure that you have your workers set up first. And then if there's a payment amount for that worker, you can enter that in the fee box and then go ahead and click Save. Now, the second feature that we're going to go over for ArbiterGame are the different importing options that we have, including the ability to import your workers, students, and games. So first, let's go to the Workers tab here at the top. And we're going to go to this Add New Worker button and click this little arrow. And as you can see, we have this Import Workers option. First, you're going to download this template. Now, it is an Excel template that you'll fill out with the workers information. So once you have that downloaded, this is what it looks like. So one helpful tip when it comes to importing in the system, whether it be for games, workers, or students, if you hover your mouse over the column headers on the template, it will give you the information whether or not it's required. So for the type, that is required, and the type is essentially establishing if that worker is a contractor or if they are an employee of the school. Now, the key to this is if you do intend to pay the worker through Arbiter Pay, you do need to add them into the system as a contractor. Otherwise, if that worker gets paid through normal payroll through your school, you'll select them as an employee. Now, next, you can see these additional fields that highlighted in red, so that helps you indicate what is required that you have not filled out yet. So email address, that is required. The first and last name, and then the address of the worker is also required. And then everything else is optional. So once you fill that out with your worker's information, go ahead and save it to your computer files, and then you'll return to this Import Workers page, click Choose File, and then Upload, and the system will import those workers into the system for you. Now, the next importing option for students, so we're going to jump to the Students tab here. And then we're going to go to the far right side next to this Add New Student. Click the little arrow for the dropdown. Import Students. Again, download the template. Now, each template for the different importing features we have in the system is specific to that importer. So for students, of course, you want to make sure you download the student importer. For games, of course, you want to make sure you download the game importer, etc. So once you have that downloaded, again, you can hover your mouse over the column headers. It'll tell you what information is required. So we have student ID, first and last name, the student's graduating year, gender, and then everything else is optional. You can see there's a variety of different criteria that you can enter in for your students, including information about their physicals, eligibility, and things like that. Now, once you're done filling that out, save it and come back to this Import Students page to upload your students. And then the game importer, we're going to jump to the schedule tab. Now under schedule, we're going to go to this add new button, and you can see this import games option. So for each game import, you do want to make sure you download a new template. The criteria that flows into this template for importing games is pulling specifically from your ArbiterGame account, so your team's information, your sites, opponents, things like that. So if you're adding new teams or adding new locations, that stuff will update. So if you're using the same template that you downloaded last week, but you have a new game import, you'll just want to make sure you download a new template. That way the information is up to date and it doesn't cause the game import to fail or anything like that. So once you download the template, you can see we have the date, which is required. The time is required. And another thing to note here, let me see if I can make this a little bigger so you can see it better, but it also tells you what format it needs to be in. That's a little better there. As you can see for the date, it needs to be in the month / day / year format. The time needs to be in this format, as you can see. The next required criteria is the team. Now, another helpful tip for this is instead of having to manually type in the information, like for your team, your opponent, your site, you have this little arrow. So this is a drop down. This is pulling all of the criteria from your ArbiterGame account. So this just shows all of your teams, so you can go ahead and select it instead of having to type it out. And this also ensures that the information matches the team information in your ArbiterGame account so that the importer will successfully add the games. Next, in this column, you'll identify if it's a home or an away game. And then the opponent is optional. You can leave the opponent blank if you're not sure who you're playing against, so it will import as TBA. Or if you do know who you will be playing against, you can go ahead and click the little arrow and select the school. Now the next column here is the site. And again, use the little arrow. You can select the site and subsite where the game is taking place. And then the last three columns here, transportation and facility is optional. And in these columns, you just simply indicate whether or not transportation and facility is required. And then the last column here, assigned by. This is just identifying who is responsible for assigning the officials for the game, if it will be your Arbiter 1 assigner or your school. So once you're done filling that out, go ahead and save it, and then go ahead and upload that, and the system will import the games for you. Now, the third feature that we want to go over here under schedule is you now have the ability to enter the away team and home team scores for your games. So like on this game, for example, you can see these little boxes here. So this is where we can put in the away team's score and the home team's score. So as you can see, it will just automatically update. And then next on the schedule, we're going to go over the different mass updating options. Now, before you run a mass update for any of your games, first you'll want to create a filter for your games that you need to mass update. And the mass updating options include a variety of things. If we go to this actions dropdown here at the top, you can see all the options. We have the option to email the officials or anyone related to the games. You can mass update facility and transportation information. You can mass accept game contracts. You can mass publish or unpublish your games, and you can mass update game statuses. So first, you can use either the default filtering options we have here on the far left side. You can just filter by date range here, sport and level. Or if you need more specific games, you do have the ability to create your own custom filter. So here above the calendar, you have this advanced option. So we're going to go ahead and click on that, and this will allow you to create your own custom filters. So we're going to click create. And there we go. Next, it will, as you can see, it will pull up all the different criteria, the options that you can use to filter your games. So first, give your filter a name, and then go ahead and filter your games as needed. You can do by date range, and there is an option for a custom date range. You can do by published, by event type, sport and level. Now, one example of a mass updating option is if you need to mass update a game status, like if a bunch of games have been canceled, instead of having to go into the system and each game having to go in and cancel it, you can just run a mass update and cancel the games at once. So once you're done filtering your games, there we go. Then you can go ahead and either specifically select the games you want to update by checking the boxes here on the far left side, or to select all of the games on the current filter, click this checkbox here at the very top, and it will select all. And then you can go ahead and go to the action menu here and perform the mass update that you need. For the example that I gave, if we need to mass cancel the games, you can go to update game status, select the status that you want. As you can see, there's a variety of options. And then you have the option to choose who you want to email to notify that the games have been canceled. Once you have all of that set, go ahead and click confirm, and the system will update the games for you. Another great option for this is if you need to mass accept game contracts. Instead of having to go to each game individually and accept the game contract, you can just go ahead and go to the actions and accept contracts. Now, the fifth feature that we're going to go over are the roles and permission options that we have for ArbiterGame. So we're going to go to the settings tab here. Now, first we're going to go to the staff tab, and I'll show you how you can add additional staff members. So if you have like a coach or an assistant or anybody that you would like access to the system, you can go ahead and add them under school staff. When you add a school staff member, there's 3 roles that we have as an option that you can add them in. So there's admin, staff, and payer. So first, let me go ahead and quickly show you how you would add a new staff member. So we're going to go in the top right corner here, enter in their email address. If they do not already exist in the system, you'll need to enter their information, including their name and their address. Once you're done filling that information out, go ahead and click Create User. And then the system will give you the option to select their title. So if they're a coach or an admin, anything like that. And then the role. So admin is not customizable. This one would give that user access to everything in the system. They can modify games, add teams, add officials, things like that. And then the payer and the staff role, you do have the ability to customize the permissions for these 2 roles to limit their capabilities in the system. So payers would typically only have payer access, payments, reporting, things like that. And then staff would typically only have access to the scheduling side of the system. But of course, they can be customized to best fit your needs. And I'll go ahead and show you next how you can customize those roles. So to customize the roles, you're going to go to the Roles tab here right next to Staff. And as you can see, the admin cannot be edited, but you can modify the payer and the staff role. So I'm going to go to the Staff. To modify, we're going to click the Edit pencil on the far right side. And as you can see, on the far left side, you have all of the different features, all of the different tabs in the system for ArbiterGame. So on the far right side, you'll go ahead and check the box or uncheck the box to limit what that user role can access in the system. So just as an example, for staff roles, if you only want them to be able to view the schedule, if you don't want them to be able to add games or modify games, things like I apologize, everyone. My headset cut out. What I was saying is if you only want the staff member to only view the schedule, meaning they cannot edit games or edit officials, anything like that, you can go ahead and uncheck the box for full access. And that will apply to that user. And you can go ahead and go down the list here, check the boxes, and make sure to click Save Role here at the bottom. Now, a bonus feature that we want to go over for you guys is iCal feed. So here under Settings, we're going to jump to this iCal feed. So iCal feed allows you to sync your school's schedule in ArbiterGame with your school's calendar or your personal calendar, even your district's calendar, or you can sync it up with any websites that may be associated with your school. And the great thing about this is the game feed will automatically update if you make any changes to games or cancellations, anything like that. So to set this up, first you'll go down the list, all these different options here, select what criteria you want to include in the iCal feed. And then you'll go ahead and click this Create Feed option and it will generate that link for you to sync up with your calendar or your website or anything like that. So those are all of the features that we are going over today. Elliot, would you like to take over?
Yes, thank you. All right, so looks like a few more questions are coming in, so we'll stick around for a bit to get those wrapped up. But if there's anything you want to see again or anything you want us to go a little bit more detail into, definitely put that in the chat and we can go over it. Thank you, Alexis, for going through everything. That was awesome. We appreciate everybody jumping on. I'm going to go ahead and put the links into our articles that show our past and upcoming webinars. And like I said, if there's anything anybody wants to see again or want us to kind of explain, please feel free to put that in the chat. All right, looks like the questions have kind of stopped, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up for the day. Let everybody get a jump on the weekend. We appreciate you guys jumping in. Hope this was helpful. We will be sending out a survey to you guys. If you have the time, fill it out. Let us know how we did. Let us know if there's any topics you would like us to cover in the future. So be on the lookout for that. Those links are in the chat, so if you want to visit those articles that show our webinars, please do so. We'll be having more of these in the future, so feel free to join in as many as you want. But with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. So thank you, everybody. Hope everyone has a great weekend.